On the 16th of July, 1969, the world watched in anticipation as Apollo 11 launched from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Its destination, the Moon. On board were three men whose names, well, two of them anyway, would forever be known in the annals of history: Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and some other guy, Michael Collins. These three pioneers would board Saturn V, which launched at 9:32 local time, or 13:32 universal time, and into the pages of history. 4 days after its initial launch, Armstrong and Aldrin began their ascent towards the Moon, leaving Collins behind on the Columbia. Shooting wide of their target and coming into a shaky landing, the Eagle touched down on the lunar surface. 2.5 hours after the landing, as they began their preparations, Aldrin, a Presbyterian, radioed control and stated, "This is the LM2. And a half hours, this is the LM pilot. I'd like to take this opportunity to ask every person listening in, whoever and wherever they may be, to pause for a moment and recontemplate the events of the past few hours and give thanks in his or her own way, before taking a private communion. Or communion, if you will." In the early hours of the next morning, the Eagle's hatch would open, and with a live feed broadcasting to the world, Armstrong stepped onto the surface of the Moon and uttered what might be the most known phrase in the history of humanity. "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Not long after the two astronauts had landed on the Moon and had started doing a few tests, they brought out a special flagpole designed to withstand the vacuum of space and planted the Star-Spangled Banner before saluting. Ironically, in the intervening years, the radiation of space has bleached the flag white, so now it looks like the French landed and then promptly did what the French tend to do. It was around this time of the flag being planted that they would be contacted by President Nixon, who would broadcast them via telephone directly from the Oval Office. "Hello, Neil and Buzz. I'm talking to you by telephone from the Oval Room at the White House. And this certainly has to be the most historic telephone call ever made from the White House. I just can't tell you how proud we all are of what you have done. For every American, this has to be the proudest day of our lives. And for people all over the world, I am sure that they too join with Americans in recognizing what an immense feat this is. Because of what you have done, the heavens have become a part of man's world. And as you talk to us from the Sea of Tranquility, it inspires us to redouble our efforts to bring peace and tranquility to Earth. For one priceless moment in the whole history of man, all the people on this earth are truly one in their pride in what you have done, and one in our prayers that you will return safely to Earth." As we can see, the Moon landing of 1969 has become one of, if not the most important events of human history, and stands as one of humanity's greatest achievements. But what has inspired this turn of events? What happened to cause this to happen? That would, of course, be the space race. So I hope you follow along in this series of videos, as all will be revealed as we declassify the space race.